I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Man, that is a sad clown.
Dude, that's pretty good.
This is The Gloom, bringing you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha packs, exploring their F3 experiences and finding those sticky elements that create the glue in the gloom.
Shout out to our sponsors. Major Team Mortgage, Omaha Laser Dentistry, Exclusively Eye Care, Liberty Core Real Estate, Avier Wealth Management, and Apex Men's Clinic. We appreciate their support.
Liberty Core Real Estate is your homegrown real estate broker. If you're looking to buy or sell real estate, whether personal or investment, Armando, aka Brian, and Megan Michaels' company is ready to serve you. With Command Center in Old Town Elkhorn and agents all throughout the metro, they are more than ready to guide and serve you in your next real estate endeavor. Whether your next move needs to happen now or in 5 years, call or text Armando at 402-770-2165 to get your questions answered. And a special offer for F3 Nation PAX members, Liberty Core will donate $250 to your sponsor of choosing for every closed transaction. Stop looking, start finding today with Liberty Core Real Estate.
Now let's get back to the gloom.
This one's been a long time coming, and this is on me that we didn't have this guy interviewed sooner. But one of the original site Qs at the Canyon trio of site Qs at the Canyon when we first launched, and a phenomenal leader, a guy that's been in F3 almost since the start. We got our man Cyclone on today, and Cyclone, we're excited just to get your story and learn from you and your experiences. And where we like to start is just who EH'd you, if you remember what the first workout was like. And then I think most guys know, but how'd you get the name Cyclone?
So yeah, how I started. So TC and I obviously were shield lock well before F3. Prior to F3, I was strictly a runner. So TC and I would run a lot of races. And so we had run the cornfield to cornfield race, and it was post-race, and we were at Werner Stadium enjoying a cold beverage for our efforts. And a guy walked by with an F3 shirt on, and of course, TC being shy, had to jump up and run over there and ask the guy what that was. And so the gentleman proceeded to give us the standard F3 spiel. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was the most ridiculous thing. And TC was very enamored. And it was our man Tonight Show. Yeah. And so TC immediately committed to joining the workout that next weekend. And I thought it was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard and had no interest in doing it because I was strictly a runner. I would rather do about 999 other things than do a push-up or lift a weight or something. So TC went the next weekend, started telling me how great it was, had to go. I kept telling him no. And then it was like Friday night, he texted me late, said, I'll pick you up at 6:30. Be dressed and ready to go. Because, TC, I've known TC for a long time, and I'm still looking for the off button. So I knew I had to be dressed and out on the porch, and he picked me up. And so it was, again, right after the beginning. I joined in July after it had started in April. So there weren't a lot of workouts. It was a Saturday morning out at the Oracle, and wait time was the cue. And so I hadn't done a push-up probably since I took the presidential fitness test in 6th grade. And so I was kind of nervous, and, he comes out and he starts his spiel with, I'm not going to be your friend for the next, and I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah. What did I just get myself into? And so we proceeded to have a pretty good time, and he took us through a classic hard workout, but it was a lot of fun. So, I was a convert right away. I had known that I was getting to an age where I needed to start to incorporate other aspects into my fitness besides running. And so it was just meant to be, I guess.
And then walk us through, when you got in that circle at the end, what did you say that landed us on Cyclone?
Yeah. So, I'm I'm a pretty simple, basic guy. I don't have a lot of hobbies. Like I said, I was a runner and I work. That was pretty much it. Be a father, all those things. And so the only other thing in my life is that I'm a huge Hawkeye fan. I was born in Iowa City, started going to football games before I could walk. I'm a graduate of Iowa. My sister works for the athletic department. So, of course, I shared that, and immediately I got Cyclone, and I was so confused. So, Gator and I, every time we just have a moment where we bond together because
Yeah.
we're both in that same situation.
How did you adjust after getting that name? Were you upset or annoyed or?
No, I wasn't upset because, again, I get it. It's like, well,
Mhm.
there could be a lot worse names.
Yeah.
So I roll with it. It is what it is. It's hilarious how many people come up to me and be like, "Hey, man, you guys had a great game last weekend against Oklahoma." No, 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 no. That's not the way it works.
Yeah.
And get the name because I'm a Cyclone fan. That would never be a good match.
So,
Right.
besides the workout, I mean, what do you think of the guys that were there? I mean, what were your impressions?
Well, this was back when it was a small group of guys. So, uh, they were really great guys. I mean, they were, it was I don't know if you guys remember him. There was a guy called Bluegrass was his name.
Hmm.
And he was one of the nicest guys on the planet. And he immediately took me under his wing at the workout and watched over me and gave me encouragement and became a really good buddy until he moved, I think, to Colorado. So um, I, I thought these guys are really, they recognize that this can be a little intimidating. It can be a little confusing, but he stepped up and was with me every step of the way. TC sure wasn't. He was off yakking and like,
Yeah. You mentioned, previously being just a runner and kind of realizing maybe a need for variety in your fitness, but maybe walk us through like what's been your kind of fitness journey from running to where you are now, and how have you gone about maintaining a high level of fitness?
yeah, I started out. Again, I just had a real passion for running pretty much my entire adult life, and for me, it was just where I go and I get into my own mind, and I either work through problems from work or think through life, and it's just really a place where I can go and be in my own. So
Hmm.
it will always be my passion and my favorite place to be. But as I got into my upper 50s, the knees started creaking a little bit, the back started kind of, and then I'd go do some yard work and I'd be like, man, I'm really sore the next day. So I always knew that I needed to kind of start to think about incorporating that into that. So it was really hard. I think the first couple Merkins I tried to do, it was like, wow, that's really hard. you know?
Yeah.
So it's and again, that's one of my favorite things about F3 is that people come in and they go on that fitness journey, and some guys are starting at a very different place than others, but everybody's on that journey, and so 6 months later, when you can sit there and pound off 20 Merkins no problem, you're like, hey, all right, that's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
Absolutely.
And then you look in the mirror and you kind of go, "Wow, what are those? Those look like some guns, man."
I love that. Have you
And
found
go
yourself
ahead.
going to the so we've got all these different options, right? We have some running sites, and then we have some weight sites, and even like Coronado now, right? More of a lower
Mhm.
impact site. Has that been helpful to have the variety, or where have you found yourself kind of navigating between the
Yeah,
different
it
locations?
does. I tend not to do the running ones generally because again, I like to get out on my own, go do those things. But I like the weight ones. I go to heavy metal quite a bit because again, it's just every once in a while. Because again, it's great that you have the variety and the unknown aspect of an F3 workout, but then sometimes you might go for a week and you're like, I don't feel like I've done anything in my upper body. So
Mhm.
Right.
I need to go to a weight workout where you're going to get focused and concentrated and get those areas that you really want to get so that you don't have to worry about it.
And I know you said you like to run on your own, but do you do any of the pre-runs ever?
Yeah, I do. You know, it's gotten harder to do those, but um, you know, Gunnar told me a couple of weeks ago that he was going to text me to do a pre-run because he wanted to do a slow pre-run. So, so yeah, I try to get out and do a pre-run here and there. You know, I tore my meniscus about 6 months ago, and
Ooh,
you know, it's one of those that it's not bad enough to have surgery, but not good enough that it's ever going to heal. So I'm kind of working through how to run with that. And
mm,
the only thing that I can, but it's like I've gotten even slower. You know? So yeah, I'll get out there every once in a while.
nice.
If it's warmer, I'll probably get out there more.
Yeah. What it's funny. We talk to a lot of different guys as we do these interviews, and we always kind of talk about okay, physical fitness and then diet, and I don't know if in your experience, like what's been your like have you found a balance, or what if you could make a recommendation or give advice to guys that are listening, how do you balance those things through life?
Yeah, you know, it's hard for me to talk in these terms because there's a lot of. I think you even asked me one time, like, you always seem so even keeled and easygoing. What's the secret? And it's like I've just always have been very wired in my life that I don't get too extreme about anything one way or the other. I'm very balanced, and I
Hmm.
don't know why it just comes naturally to me. And maybe it's because I'm a thinker and I think constantly. So I just rationalize that there's always going to be a point of where there's diminishing returns on anything, whether that's eating, drinking, working out, anything. So I just always try to find balance and not overthink it. Ultimately, like, hey, I know that sometimes I might have that last drink I probably shouldn't have had, or maybe the pizza and the wings weren't the best idea, but sometimes you just gotta go. So I just always try to be very balanced and then not get too upset or overthink as things come my way.
Hmm.
And what is like on if we're looking at it on a regular week of Cyclone, what does balance look like for you in a given week? How many times are you posting and
Yeah,
running, not running?
yeah. I try to work out 5 to 6 times a week, and so that's a combination of running or F3. And it's always a challenge for me because I have to work that into my job schedule. So it tends to dictate what that's going to be more than what I desire. And then again, when I'm at work, I tend to not eat a lot because it makes me tired. So I try not to eat meat during the day. So I usually just eat some yogurt in the
Hmm.
morning, and then at lunch, I try to eat some fruit and some cheese and things like that. So I try not to get too focused or overindulge during work because it makes me sluggish. And then when I go home, my wife and I generally, make a combination of a great meal that's well balanced, and just, and then again, every once in a while, TC will call me up and we'll go to Buffalo Wild Wings and drink beer and eat pizza and wings.
Yeah. That's awesome. I really appreciate that. And, I guess your previous comment about just not overthinking it, especially in F3, right? New guys start and they see this group and we're doing all these things. And there's maybe this feeling of like, you have to do all those things to be
Uh,
a part of the group. And, as you've been participating in F3 for over 5 years now, have you had a chance to do like Queen service or halfway house, or what's been what have you found most enjoyment and success from?
yeah, I did Queen service once, and I think it's when TC led it, and his motivation was more the stick than carrot, and so I didn't like it because
Yeah.
nasty texts, and I was like, wait, So I did that once, but again, I don't get over concerned about my weight. It's been the same for about 20 years, so it is kind of what it is. So other than that, like a lot of guys, I think I've just fallen into a pattern of there's certain places I go to post on certain days and just take advantage of who shows up and who leads it that day.
Yeah.
Well, and then you're kind of in a unique position for well, I wouldn't say it's really, really unique, but joining so early and actually having a friend there, like someone that you consider one of your good buddies to bring you out and have him to lean on. He wasn't maybe there for you on the first workout. He was up yapping ahead, and that's fine. But to have someone around that you knew and that you trusted had to have kept you around just a little bit longer. I'm curious, these 5+ years that you've been here, how have you kind of navigated forming new relationships with people? I see you as an older PAX member who, I see you conversing with Polaroid quite often. And I'm curious, have you had some, mentorship relationships, things of that nature?
Yeah, when I think about F3, the things that really resonate with me, again, I being in a pretty grounded state, I was in a good mental state, in a good physical state. So there's not a great transformation in my life that's occurred from F3 in that regard. But when I think about the things that resonate with me, one of them is, I can go out on a Saturday morning and spend 2 hours with guys like Spreadsheet and E85 who are in their 20s. And, I can't think of another circumstance where I'd have that opportunity, where, you're out side by side with them for an hour sweating, and then you're sitting for an hour having coffee and talking about life. That's really a dramatic thing because, again, I just, and again, there's 20-year-old kids here at work, but they drive me crazy and I don't want to talk to them.
You're right.
So I have the opportunity to interact and engage, but not in that way and on that level. So I think that is really cool that a guy in his 60s can sit down for 2 hours on a Saturday with guys in their 20s and just have a great time together. So that's really cool. The other thing I like, again, is, I like when guys come into F3 and you can tell they're on a journey, whether it be a guy like Sputnik who shows up, and you're like, all right, here's this guy, and it's kind of like Band of Brothers when replacements show up, it's like, you're kind of a little like, all right, I don't want to form too close a bond because I don't know if he's coming back, and
Right.
Yeah.
And they go through that first workout and you're like, oh my gosh, that was not a good experience for them. I don't know if they're going to come back, and then next day there they are, they're back, and you're like, all right. And then they're back again. And you're like, all right, they're committed. They're on a journey. And it's really great to watch those kind of guys go through that because it is transformational in their life. And they've found something that works for them and is really becoming, again, that transformational moment. So that's really cool,
That's awesome. I think when you're thinking about that second F piece and just the timing, I remember at a coffee one time at Karma. I'm an oversharer when it comes to my journey, but I remember you being one of the first guys that I kind of told my story to, or told, I am struggling with addiction. And I remember you being there and just listening and not judging. And, I don't know if I probably have never followed up and told you how impactful that was, just to feel not judged for going through something that I thought was so terrible. And I'm sure you've provided that for so many guys, but curious when you think about that second F, so you and TC, I love how you said you were shield locked before F3. Talk us through, when you think about your relationship with TC, has it gotten better or has it gotten worse because of Queen service, or talk us through that?
No, it's better because we have more opportunities to be together, or it would be a lot of it, because our kids were friends and our wives are friends. So it would be when we got together as an event for everybody, or maybe once in a while the guys would get together. So, I might see him a couple times a month, or we would try to go out and figure out how we could hook up sometime individually. And it was always, well, I got this, I got that. But with this, a couple times a week, we're hanging out, chatting, having fun, sitting down at coffee. So it's definitely enhanced it because we just get to interact together more.
That's awesome.
Well, I like this idea of you guys being some of the elder statesmen and still going out to have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, always.
That's awesome. The other kind of piece we like to talk about too is just other relationships. So maybe guys you didn't know. Curious how that's gone. If you've been able to form some new friendships, and maybe if you would touch on the maybe the impact of the respect pop-ups have had any impact there, or how's that going?
Yeah, there's a lot of them, and I was thinking about this the other day because, I appreciate the redwoods and what they are, but I think when I came in July, I was like number 80 or something. So, when we went into that first winter, then there were probably about 150 guys, and it's all great when you're sitting there in July going, yeah, always outside, yeah. And we went into that first winter, and that was a brutal winter. It snowed constantly, and it was freezing cold. And we were all new, and nobody knew the tricks and stuff. So, going, and again, that's back when there was 150 guys in 3 or 4 locations. So you knew everybody. So those guys that were there through that first winter and their thing, I always see them, and it's always just, I think there's always this natural connection. It's like we've been in this together. We kind of figured it out together. So there's always that, and being an East Side guy, a little East Side pride in there.
Yeah.
I hit those things, and we've got a pretty good core group. So, guys like Othello, just, every time he sees me, big hug, and you just cannot but be filled with joy when you see him, and just gone Polaroid, just quick catch up. What's going on? Well, how are you doing? So there's just tons of guys now that you just have this connection with when you see them. It's just like, you're there, we're in this together, and you're right back, it's like we're always together.
Yeah, that's awesome. How about the respect pop-ups? How are those going? Have you gone to many of those, or
I've gone to several of them, and I'll be honest, I was hoping they'd be a lot easier than they are.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
I think maybe there's like this, hey, we got, we can't let these guys see us, like maybe I was like backing off a little bit. So yeah, it's pretty cool because I remember for maybe the first couple of years, I was always the oldest guy there by a long shot, and then so when all of a sudden all these guys started showing up that were older, I was like, oh, thank God, the pressure's off.
Yeah.
And now, we've got, like guys like Da Vinci and Hipster who are in their 70s. It's really pretty cool. You get out there, get 20 guys that are over 50, some in their 60s, a couple in their 70s, and are out there running around. It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
And again, to me, it's just this affirmation about, life's what you make of it. Age is a number. Get out there and keep moving, and it's all good.
I am curious, as someone who's been participating for so long, you've kind of seen it near its genesis and to what it is today. I mean, what does the transformation look like from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually pretty amazing, right? Because again, I remember like the first time at the Oracle when maybe like 25 guys showed up, and we were all just like, wow, this is amazing. Look how many guys are here. We're going to the horse track back when it was one of the original ones. And there were several times there was just 2 of us. Yeah. It was like, wow. So now, when you get up and you on Sunday and you look and kind of start planning out where you may go, and you pull it up and you're like, oh my gosh, look at all of these locations. And then I'll watch some Namoramas from places that I've never been. And I'm like, I don't think I've worked out with any of these guys. So really, and it's good from the perspective of, it's impacting more people and it's whatever. But then again, you lose some of that connection too, because like you said, you watch it and you're like, I've worked out with that guy. I don't even, who is he? Because, there's been, like I went a couple of years ago, I went to a fundraiser at some place, and you look around and there's like, wow, there's an F3 guy, there's an F3 guy, there's an F3 guy. There's like, they're everywhere, So you see them out in the wild, And so it's harder when now you don't know all these people as well.
Yeah.
It's a good thing, because again, it's a great organization. It has the ability to transform lives. It certainly impacts everybody's life. So the more involved, the better. But it gets intimidating sometimes, It's like, wow, where should I go today? Or, well, Plague's going to do burpees, so I'm not going there. But I don't know if he does.
Yeah, my workouts are easier today, I think, than they used to be. I don't know, but
All right.
to give you some perspective, we were just looking at numbers. So 2018, we had 6 physical AOs and 8 weekly workouts. So that's Smurfs. Year to date, we've got 63 physical AOs and
Great.
70 weekly workouts. So it's crazy.
What's great is the engagement of the guys to make that all happen. Because again,
Yeah,
it's all just it takes everybody to make this work, right? So,
yeah.
and that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I miss, like you mentioned that kind of core group that first winter, and part of this is myself moving to a completely different part of the city. But there, maybe we should do an OG
Yeah,
pop up or winter of 2018 kind of pop up would be kind of
yeah.
fun to do.
Maybe have like a convergence, and you split up by the year you joined or something.
Oh, I
That's
love
a
that
good
idea.
idea.
That's awesome. That would be awesome. Well, I'm curious because I know, and part of this is was the site Q role at Canyon, but curious where Waffle House fits into your journey. Was that kind of the trio, you, TC, and Waffle House? Were you all friends before, or when did
Yeah,
you
yeah.
get to know him?
Again, our kids all swam together at Central High, so we all knew each other. Um, I was surprised because there's two other guys in our core group of friends, and they were like, "Yeah, there ain't no way I'm coming out to F3." So I was surprised when Waffle House said he was going to show up, and not only did he show up, but then he became like all in.
Yeah,
So I was really surprised, and yeah, he's just a great, fun guy to be around. Even today, he's even goofier than he was before.
yeah. Yeah. What I don't know if you remember kind of that event and when he got in that accident and
Uh huh.
all of that, but
Yeah.
walk us through. I just my whole perspective on that is the way he's handled that scenario and the way he's
Mhm.
moving forward in life is just remarkable. And I don't know, but what from your perspective, how was that watching a friend go through that sort of life
Yeah.
change?
It was uh, it was really stark and traumatic, right? Because all of a sudden, overnight, it's changed radically. And it's not something I had experience with. So we all have kind of gone through this journey with him together, and he just has such an amazing perspective on life.
Hmm.
Nothing gets that guy down. Like I've never once heard him complain about his situation or bemoan something he's had to go through. It's just he approaches it with a smile and a positive outlook. I mean, he's truly amazing in that regard. So
Yeah.
that's made it a lot easier on us because, he's just like, hey, we'll go figure this out, and he has. And
Yeah.
he's adapted really well. He's happy. He's, he works out, he's got a great wife, great kids. So,
Yeah.
Well, how did you guys decide, okay, us three, we're going to go in together? And what did you guys have envisioned for the site? And did it meet your expectations?
if I remember correctly, Waffle House volunteered, then he's also not necessarily the most organized guy. It quickly became obvious that we needed to help him. So said, hey, we'll just do this all together. So,
Right.
and again, it was just starting out. And, we thought, he moved downtown. I live in Dundee, and TC doesn't live too much farther out. And we thought, this could be a great location. We need to really support it and get it going.
Hmm.
What were your expectations for the site when you first started it?
When we first started, the because again, if you remember, we first started on the old part of what was down there before they started ripping it up. So
Right.
Hmm.
this first of all, I thought, we're on the river. This is great. There's just so many options to what we can do down here. But I also knew, we were growing more and more with guys out west, and I'm like, are guys going to drive down here? Are we going to be able to people out of the downtown area? So, that first year it was hard. We probably averaged about 6 to 7 guys a workout, and usually 3 of them were Waffle House, TC, and I.
No.
So, and I ended up queuing a lot.
Yeah.
So, it took some doing, and it's come a long way. I'd say, I still go frequently, and I'd say now we're averaging, good 20 to 22 guys a workout, and it's a good mixed bag. People venture down to kind of see what's going on. So
Yeah.
it's a good, strong, solid AO.
And you guys moved the location, right? So because they did all that construction, and now you're in a little bit different spot.
Yeah, we moved out to Gallup, and we were down there for a while, and now we moved back down post construction to be back downtown.
Yeah, that's a really cool area. They've done a lot of cool work
Yeah,
down there.
it is. But I complained because we get a lot of new people that want to come down and queue from out west, and I call them tourists because all they want to do is run around and look at stuff. We spend the whole workout running around, so and I'm like, okay, here you go, run another tourist workout here. We're gonna run over to the museum, and then we're gonna run over to the courthouse. And there were like 3 of them in a row, and I told Gunner and Reeve, I said, quit getting these guys from out west. I want to just get down here and go and look around.
Right. You got to use some of the equipment, right?
A lot of running.
I'll remember that if I come down there to queue and make sure I don't do a tourist workout.
I'll make sure to do it.
Running and stuff, but it's been a lot of running.
Yeah, I love it. What talk us through, on the topic of the canyon, talk us through the kind of succession planning and kind of handing that off, because if I remember right, you handed it off to spreadsheet and mac and cheese, right?
Yep. Yeah. So, we thought that we had 3 respect guys who established it and made it what it was. And, again, those 2 guys, were both hate guys. I think spreadsheet's now an old guy. He's over 30.
Yeah. So
we felt like it needed to be picked up and taken by the hate guys, and they were coming regularly. And, Side Dish guy was just a phenomenal workout guy. And Spreadsheet was the planner, so we thought they were a good combo, and so we thought that they would be a good pair to take that to the next step.
Nice. Yeah, they did an excellent job. And then Side Dish handed it to now Da Vinci and Reba, right?
I think Gunner and
Gunner and Joe Buck. Yep.
Buck were clean, and now Da Vinci and Reba. So yeah, the 4th iteration.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a legacy, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious because you've got quite a bit of leadership experience just in your professional world, and one of the things we're trying to do right with the Site Q role is build male community leadership. How do you think was that role helpful? Did you any takeaways or any maybe advice that you would have for other Site Qs out there?
Yeah, from my perspective, again, it's like I always try to strike a balance between having fun and keeping it casual, but also recognizing like guys are there to work out, because if I go and I don't feel like I've got a good workout, then I'm like, well, do I got to go home and work out? So, I always try to find a balance between, making sure that everybody that's showing up is getting some piece of what they're there for, whether it's the fellowship or the workout, just making sure that you really get it all in and nobody goes away disappointed.
Yeah.
And, then I always like, I'm never going to try to do something that I can't do.
Yeah. That's a good rule of thumb, right? If you can't do it, don't cue it.
Yeah. Cause I love giving guys crap when they try, cause who it was, but somebody showed up and they had gone like deep into the lexicon and things that, after like 4 or 5 years I had never seen done, and they were struggling through it. And I was like, well, if it takes you 10 minutes to explain it takes us 20 seconds to do it, you need to move the next page, man. Let's go.
Yeah. That's funny. Curious if you have any other kind of fun stories or favorite memories from the last few years. Anything stick out at you that you're like, I can't believe we did that, or anything in that space?
Yeah, there's just it's an adventure. There's a lot of goofy guys out there.
Yeah.
gosh, yeah, there's just too many to mention. There's always something that goes on that's hilarious.
Yeah.
There's the guy that showed up with the big cup of beer one morning to work out with us at Cornhusker. Brazilian named him Major Tom.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Woo! And the Brazilian was queuing again. We were there at Cornhusker, and they came to clean out the porta potties after like an event the night before, and I almost threw up. It was so bad. So there's just that's the great thing about it. You just never know what's going to happen out there.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. No, that's
Well,
awesome.
talk us through the third F piece. Your personal journey, how F3 kind of helps you in that third F, maybe foster some of your relationships there. Just talk us through it.
Yeah, the great thing about it for me is, and I actually like this part of it, is, after you've gone through that workout, you've hit the first two Fs because you're always going to have some fellowship along the way. I love it all of a sudden when it's just you bundle up and you just put your mind at ease and you go there. So it's really a great way to shift gears, and because of what you've done for the previous hour, it really gets you in a good spot quickly. So it's very easy for me to focus and listen to what's being said and really reflect for a moment. So it's like I've said sometimes, like, I think the prayer at the end of the workout sometimes is better than I've spent an hour in church on Sunday morning. Just been so dialed into it, and then afterwards, it's like I'm so appreciative of the guys and what just happened. So yeah, I think it can really ground you and focus you in a way that you might not get somewhere else.
I love that. I'm curious. One of the kind of common themes that comes up is sort of the, guy, grew up going to church, maybe drifts away, and sort of comes back to F3, but still maybe not, still just kind of hanging out, right, in this kind of space of not really sure what they believe. What, just kind of thinking back over your life, any advice or sort of, I don't know, words of wisdom, encouragement, in that space as guys are trying to find that sort of third F focus?
Yeah, because I've been on that journey because I did not grow up going to church. My dad was a milkman, so Sunday was his first day off for the week, and he's like, "I'm not going to church. I'm resting." So I came to going to church, becoming a Christian late in life, and it was a struggle for me because at that point in my life, I thought I was pretty smart and knew everything. And I was very fortunate in that the first church I went to and was baptized at had a great youth minister who I became friends with, and he just was really able, to break it down to me and have conversations to me that made sense, and the thing that always resonated with me was, he talked about, hey, doubt is the cornerstone of faith, and not expected to have, it's okay to come in a vulnerable place and confused. And, so he really helped me kind of get over, that first part of how do I really engage in this when I'm not sure what it all means or how I'm supposed to engage in it. So, it really just comes back to then, you just have to go into it with an open heart and open mind and realize that, it's going to be what you want it to be. And, God isn't going to get too upset how you connect with him. He just wants you to connect with him. And there isn't a right way or a wrong way.
That's beautiful.
And, and we all have our moments too, where, and again, it's expected. Again, you go read the scripture and it's full of people who had tremendous opportunities who let God down. So it's like, you're going to let him down at some point. You're going to fail. You're going to have your moments, but that's when you reach out to those people around you. That's when you dig deeper into your faith and you pick yourself up and you keep going.
That's awesome. That's really well said. And that piece, the sort of the, doubt is the cornerstone of faith. That's such a good reminder that, I think you have to start somewhere, on that journey. I love that. I'm curious, as you're thinking about like guys in the gloom, or maybe your experience, where have you found a good sort of outlet for those conversations? Just sort of in the gloom, or at coffee, or Q Source, or have you found a?
And again, that's what's great about F3 is that everybody's in a different place, so you can get so many different perspectives, and you always learn when you have those different perspectives presented to you, right? Because again, there's no wrong answer, right? We're all on this rock heading down the journey together, so we'll all get there at some point and figure it out. So I just love engaging with people and getting their points of view about where are they on that and why, and so, and again, there's no right or wrong. It's just share, where are you at,
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, the another question that just sort of comes to mind as I'm hearing you talk through this, because we talked about like the whetstone and the blade, right? Sort of that mentoring relationship. And I think what I've learned is a lot of that happens informally, right? You hear a guy say something, and then you kind of go look it up, on your own, and maybe reach out and tell them thank you. But from your perspective, how's that mentoring piece, or maybe what, do you see opportunity there for us? And maybe what are your thoughts on that? How do we engage more guys in that type of
Yeah,
relationship?
I don't have a good answer there too, because it's not something that naturally comes to me where I pause and say, well, spreadsheet sitting over there, he's a young guy, I'm going to go over and mentor him. That
Right.
doesn't,
Right.
that's,
Yeah.
so I think it's more about, again, giving the opportunity for guys to interact. And again, you'll find different ways and different people to have a connection, and that's how you start that process. It all starts with everybody coming into it with an open mind and a willingness to engage on whatever level, and see where that takes you. Right?
Well, I hear what you're saying, that happens at a cellular or personal level, right? It's guy to guy figuring out how open am I going to be with this particular individual. I am curious if you think that we could be doing a better job of fostering more of those relationships, or the environment making it more open, or do you think we're doing a fine job and guys just need to lean in a little bit harder?
Yeah, I've thought about that, because you see guys that don't come to cafeteria, or are a little bit quieter when they work out, and I'm like, you know is that okay? And I'm like, but again, I think that's part of letting people be where they are, and give them opportunities, lead by example. Like, hey, if you want to go to cafeteria, I'll buy you a coffee, and if you haven't gone, just try it once, because it's a great time. So I I think you got to be trying a whole different. You First of all, you just got to create the opportunity, right? And then you got to
Right.
create an environment where people feel safe and comfortable, and see where that takes you. I think if you get too prescriptive, and the thing I like about F3, and if I had to say if there's something I don't like versus now, that we were a little bit more wild and free back in the day, making it as we go. So I think you have to avoid getting too prescriptive, because then it feels like, well, now I'm in like this club, there's this obligation or something, and that's not what F3 should be. It should really be organic and free flowing and what you want it to be. So I think you got to find a balance there. Create the opportunities, but don't get too prescriptive or too aggressive in trying to get guys to take advantage of it, because I think it'll scare them off.
Yeah. Yeah. I've noticed like it just seems like our natural tendency to lean towards a corporate, like, things that we see in the corporate world. And then we're like, we apply that to, F3, and F3 is really designed to be sort of anti-corporation, right? In a sense. And
Yep.
yeah, it's interesting. Curious, when you think about kind of the other side of third F stuff, thinking through like the community service aspect, what's been your experience with that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I'd probably say that's probably where I'm the most deficient. It's a product of my life. I work a tremendous amount, and as I'm getting very close to retirement age, that's something that I've penciled in as a focus that I'm going to really concentrate on when I get to that point, because it's definitely been something that I have not put enough focus on.
Hmm.
I mean, it's from a time perspective.
Sure.
There's causes that I support. I go to get, etc. But like going out into the community and participating in those things is not something that I have taken advantage of to a great extent.
Yeah. Good self-awareness for sure. And I think that's okay, right? Kind of like the previous conversation, right? Finding some balance with the things going on
Yep,
wherever you're at on that journey.
I've
For
thought
sure.
about it. Out and go, hey, I should do that.
Well, that's the first step. Well, and I think that's like normal anyway. I mean, the more you free up your time, right, the more avenues of opportunity that present themselves for you to participate in those things. So,
Yeah.
as you've said, you're busy in your life right now. I wouldn't be beating myself over the head for not participating in a particular event or something.
Yeah, and again, that's one of the great things about F3 being so early in the morning. It works for my schedule, right? The time is a rare commodity for me right now. I've got a lot of other things in surplus and abundance I can give, and time just isn't one of them right now.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I wanted to get your thoughts as you're thinking about, the, fitness fellowship faith, the leadership piece. Any advice or sort of like key, maybe nuggets that you would share with maybe it's a new guy or a site Q? Like what are those maybe top three kind of things you would share for people to get the most out of F3?
Oh yeah, boy. Well, I mean, first one obviously is just keep showing up,
Mm-hmm.
and again, and this is where I think we all, because again, I think back to that first workout with bluegrass. I mean, I think we all have to figure out how to be as inviting as we can and create that environment where people feel good about it.
Mm.
I think it's hard for people who come in and everybody knows each other, and they know, like, what do you mean we're doing a Merkin? What the heck's that? So,
Yeah.
I think, you got to really just grab these guys and say, look, just give this a chance, and just, not just come out once, come out several times, And I think if you can get them out 3 or 4 times, I think you got them, And then, as I get older, and I think, the respect guys, like modifying is the key, in not being embarrassed to do that. And
Right.
with my jacked up knee, I've been modifying a lot,
Yeah.
And so, initially it was hard for me because, you're like, well, I don't know what the workout's going to be, so I want to make sure I get a good workout. And then, well, I don't want to, I'm the oldest guy here. I don't want everybody to think, well, he's the old guy. He's got to modify. So hard at first to modify. And now I'm pretty proud of it.
That's awesome. Yeah, we were previously interviewing another guy, and he made a comment that when somebody else sees you modifying, they get the message that it's okay if they need to modify. And so I think almost back to your point about being welcoming, being willing to modify communicates, hey, this is an environment where we're all doing what we can. We're not, So
Yep.
I love that. Awesome. Well, I think it's just great hearing your story, and great, I think just your consistency over time, staying engaged in the group, right? There's certainly been a number of guys that have posted between when you started and now that haven't come back or have sort of fallen off. And so just appreciate always seeing you on those Namaramas. And any other advice or thoughts, things that you might share that maybe we didn't get to cover?
No, again, it's something that I talk frequently to many people about. Something that I take pride in both participating and seeing what the organization has become. And so, I don't, I look at Da Vinci and Hipster and say, well, if they're doing it, I got at least 10 more years for sure. So I plan on being out there. I think I was at a workout a long time ago when somebody's dad came and he was in his 80s. I think he had like what's Thor's father's name? That name. Like, I'm gonna be out here when I'm in my 80s. You know,
Love it.
I'm not
Love
going
it.
anywhere. I'll be out there.
That's a good goal.
Well, I hope to see you out
I'll
there.
be
I hope I can make it that long.
modified,
Yeah.
no doubt, but I'll be out there.
Well,
Heck
that's
yeah.
okay. Well, before we kind of wrap up here, we kind of like to ask as a final question here, thoughts and prayers for you or words of encouragement that we could say to you if we see you out in the gloom.
Yeah, again, I don't need much. I'm in pretty good shape. I guess, if I had to say something, again, I am starting to get to that age where I am going to have to pay more attention to certain things with my body and modify, and that's not easy for me. So, just allow me the common sense and the dignity to do that. But honestly, if we could take a moment and pull all of our prayers together for my man Sputnik, that's where I'm really focused. I just think he's a tremendous individual, and he's got a really tough fight ahead of him.
Heck yeah.
I would ask that we all just keep him in our thoughts and prayers and continue to lift him up.
Absolutely. Yeah, and if you don't have it, I think they're handing out these kind of
Yeah,
Sputnik bracelets, which is a good reminder, as you're doing your prayers or whatever at home, and definitely lots of folks going through that, but Sputnik for sure. Well, Cyclone, has been great hearing your story, and just appreciate your leadership and yeah, just who you are, man. It's great to get to be next to you, and I'm gonna try to get down to the canyon one of these days so I can see you. It's been a while.
Well, now that you've backed off the burpees a little bit, maybe I'll come out to one of your cues.
Right, there you go. All right, I love it.
Hips hurt.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, and I've learned there's other exercises out there that are also difficult.
You go.
Yeah, yeah. See, I'm growing. Well, let's do a little name-a-rama here. I'll start
Let's
us
do
off.
it.
Brandon Flehardy, 38, The Plague.
The Plague. John Whitwer, 32, Pony Express.
Pony Express. Nay.
Mike Walena, 62, Cyclone.
Cyclone. Respect. I love it. Appreciate your time,
it, brother.
Yeah, thanks a lot. This was it was fun. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.